Hello. I am adjusting my phone. It doesn't seem to like what I'm doing here today. Stay there. Hi. It's Catherine Massell here. Master Intuitive Energy Healer, Ascending Earth Creatrix. Happy Friday. Hi. I'm going to share this in a couple places. I want to talk female empowerment. I want to talk sovereignty. I want to talk sisterhood. Major themes right now. But aren't they always, and shouldn't they always be major themes going forward? I think so. So I'm going to share in a couple places. Excuse me while I do that. If you're joining, please say hello. Let me know you're here. You can even let me know where you're watching from. If you feel like divulging that information, I would love to hear it. Put it on a couple places. Sharing. Hi, Angela. Hello, I know where you are. Let's see. Share a couple places. Dun, dun, dun. And I'm going to go ahead and share on. I have a local page here in Tahoe. Hi, Dina. How are you? If Becky's here. Becky, can I share in your group? I'm not promoting anything. I'm just talking about sisterhood. Hi. Yeah, let me know if it's okay to share in your group. I'm watching from my bed. Beautiful. Well, it's late where you are. I don't blame you. Oh, that's not a group. Okay. Right on, sister. Talk about sisterhood. It's nice to know when there's some ladies who have your back. Free to do anything in my group. Thanks, Becky. I'm going to share. I'm going to share then. And then I'm going to get into it here. Hello. Come on, internet. Please cooperate. Okay. That's the last one. And I'm going to start talking about it. And I always say, these talks are going to be short. This one probably isn't going to be, so strap in. So, I've been seeing some, let's just say, some opportunities for being able to, hi Heather, some opportunities for being able to bring in a higher energetic to this whole, let's just say reoccurrence, echoing of something that I truly believe this is a timeline that is falling away, but we're seeing it echoed in the collective a lot. This kind of, mean girl stuff between women, which we are way beyond that at this point, ladies. We are well above that. We are, those of us who are really calling ourselves way showers, it's time to put our money where our mouth is and really enact and embody that in a way that is of a higher energetic so that we can be in a place that is more expansive rather than contracted. I know, Becky, you're just like, oh, yeah, do watch the replay. I'm going to try to keep this to a half hour. I know that I tend to go long here, but I actually wrote my notes down beforehand so that I wouldn't go off on my tangents. But I really feel that this is a good time to address the kind of mean girl stuff that's rearing its ugly head. I'm seeing this especially and surprisingly in places where this really doesn't have a place. So in the spiritual community where we are rising above, we are supposed to be at the cream top of humanity in terms of how we want to lead with light. And I see many opportunities to talk about this in an enlightened and an expansive way. We don't need to call anybody out here. Maybe some of us see who's acting out of integrity in this way with the goddess perspective. Those who are claiming to lead with light and aren't. Those who are blatantly calling out other people, saying, no, it's this way, that's wrong, this is the only way to do it. This is how you experience spirituality. This is how you do this thing. What you're doing is wrong. I mean, we're seeing a lot of these things being echoed, yes? Under the excuse of I am unapologetic, yeah. And there is this kind of mistaken viewpoint, or a misplaced viewpoint of I'm in my power. When you say I'm unapologetic, I'm just going to say this and put it out there and unfriend me, and almost like you are challenging someone else to come in with their perspective and counter yours. There are many, many extremely provocative posts that we see that literally challenge anyone else's viewpoint that comes counter to their own, that they're trying to portray. There is a way to diplomatically, I believe, and we are really being called to do this. Hey, Raquel, as those of us who are really calling ourselves way showers and wanting to be in integrity with that, there's a way to do that diplomatically and bring your idea forth in the highest energetic that, yes, still can invite different perspectives. You don't have to believe someone else's perspective. You don't even have to engage. As I mentioned the other day in my Sending Earth Creatrix group, my do not engage meter really felt broken because I just was feeling my own triggers, my own feelings of, I gotta jump in and say something there. But I still wanted to do it in a way that was aligned with some integrity, that is aligned with an engagement on a level of having some sort of intellectual discourse, intelligent discussion, promoting intelligent thought. Provocation can still inspire intellectual discourse and an exchange of ideas without people on either side of it going feral on each other. This is something that I see happening with women a lot now, and I know I'm being shown this for a reason, because one of the reasons why I would actually work with women when I first started out doing this work, I didn't want to work with women because of my own wounding around this stuff, because I had grown up being bullied emotionally, physically, mentally by other women, because I had always known that I was an empath. I always knew I was different, so I was very quiet, I was very reserved, I was very tuned in on a clairaudient and claircognizant level, a clairsentient level with people, so I kept my mouth shut a lot. I didn't engage with other girls my age very much, and when I did, it was always awkward because I never knew how to act, because I was hearing things or feeling things with them that they could never admit and I could never talk about with them. So I was an awkward kid, to say the very least. And so the way young people, and for me specifically, the way young girls my age tended to treat me because of that awkwardness was in very much a bullying fashion. Now, I've healed these wounds around this, but it's interesting how things can come back in your adult life and echo. Things that you had peeled away many layers of resistance on and thought that you had healed, but maybe there's still something else there. And it could just be an echo. For me it was, but I felt like, all right, so here's this echo coming up. I've had several opportunities to deal with this echo this week. All these opportunities are coming up for me to either respond or react. We've all heard that phrase, what would Jesus do? For me, it's what would the goddess do? So if I am wanting to act in full integrity with being a way shower, fully inheriting my divinity as a goddess, as source consciousness taking form in the personality of Catherine Massel, then what would my actions be based on anything that triggers me? And stuff is going to trigger you. That's going to fucking happen. So let's get away from this idea of I'm so above being triggered. No, you're not. You're still here in this human 3D timeline. You're gonna get triggered. Stuff is gonna make you want to go off the rails. But it's what you do with that that is most important. How you respond. Are you reacting or are you responding? For me, when I go into that place, I take a beat and I say, okay, what is the best way, the most diplomatic way, the most expanded way to talk about my side of this with my perspective without diminishing anyone else's quality of experience, without taking away the potency of what that person is saying, and doing it in a way that promotes intellectual discourse and coming from both sides of it with a place of reason, with a place of engagement where we can both listen. Now, even though I'm coming at this with this perspective, it doesn't mean that's always going to be greeted in a favorable way on the other side. And that might be a whole other trigger for you. That's fine. You can deal with that accordingly, because that's just a different aspect of the same kind of conversation we're having here. But understanding that we are unlocking and stepping into a whole new different potential for us as women, okay? We are coming to understand what sovereignty means. Now, I know sovereignty, female sovereignty, is a word that gets thrown around a lot, and maybe some of us don't really have a grasp of what that means, but let me share with you what I think sovereignty means. Empowerment through independence of thought, feeling, and action in body, mind, and spirit. To me, this is sovereignty. So if I'm acting on my own independent thoughts and feelings, meaning I may get triggered by someone else, but how much do I want to jump onto their energetic to kind of meet them where they're at, if you will? That's not independent of me. That's dependent on that person who's providing me with this trigger, this beautiful, what I call gift in the garbage, this lesson. If I'm acting independently, I'm acting based on the highest integrity of my thoughts, my feelings, and taking actions that reflect that. And I'm doing so in body, mind, and spirit. It's this open system of experience, okay? Seek to understand, not just be understood. Absolutely. Absolutely, Becky. So if we are acting in sovereignty, and we kind of take this to heart and bring this template of understanding in, how many opportunities do we have in any given day to showcase this, to bring this forth in the highest and best way? I'm not saying it's easy. I am not saying it's easy, but it is a choice. And for me, it's a deliberate choice. I want to be deliberate in my actions. I want to be deliberate in my words. I want to articulate clearly what my truth is. Not in such a way that it diminishes anyone else's truth, but I have the validity and the worthiness and the value of being heard just as much as anyone else who might be speaking loud and saying nothing, talking loud and saying nothing, that great James Brown song. That may be the case, and that's not for me to judge either. It's for me to take that into my own soul, into my body, mind, and spirit, and interpret that for me. Does that ring in truth for me? Does that reflect in truth for me? No? Well, here's an opportunity to present another truth then. Again, this is not always going to be met in the highest and best way from that person who may be talking loud and saying nothing, or just saying stuff for the sake of it, for the sake of dramatic effect, for the sake of maybe even showboating a little bit, or trying to, through bringing such a polarizing belief forward or thought forward, trying maybe to trigger people. All of these things may be happening. We can also set the intention to be the thing that is missing in the interaction. For example, if compassion seems to be missing, be compassion. Exactly. And this is where it's all rolled up into response instead of react. Correct? Responsiveness instead of reaction. So when you talk about female empowerment and this new paradigm that we're all stepping into in our own way, on our own special, specific timelines, through our own divine timing, many of us, I think, just because of conversations I've had just this week alone, many of us are getting these lessons, what I like to call them, these gifts in the garbage. And I want to talk about these gifts in the garbage, these lessons that maybe feeling a little bit hard to get through right now. I want to shine a little bit of light on that brings a more expansive instead of contractive view of that, which is always what I try to do. So we understood that when we came here from our infinite, we're always the infinite within, but when we came from this infinite place of light, whatever you want to call that, and decided to incarnate here in human form. We knew from that infinite part of our consciousness that we were coming to a place of duality, to a place of contrast, that this would be how this contrast would be the vehicle for which we would get the experience or get the lessons that we asked to receive in this lifetime. We knew we would be coming here to glean experience, to glean wisdom. The contrast that is here is the vehicle for which we download these lessons. If we are still seeing these timelines collapsing, actively collapsing, and that's why there's so much of an echo of all this mean girl stuff and whatever, and this kind of lack of sisterhood going on, it is because we're dissolving a lot of timelines of fear, power structures that just aren't supported where we're going. So we're being shown this contrast. Many of you would say, we're being tested. We're being tested. But let's move away from this idea that the universe tests us. The universe is a divine co-creator here on this timeline of our human experience, and it only ever supplies the contrast so that we can learn the lessons that we asked to receive. So if we're not marking these lessons as downloaded, as complete, as we're going through these lessons, these gifts in the garbage, as I like to call them, if we're not marking these downloaded and complete, the karma repeats, that loop cycle of behavior repeats, those timelines stay alive, because without our energy to feed actively dissolving, collapsing timelines, they can't survive. So if we're leaning into the energetic in this kind of negative way to keep this timeline alive, it just keeps going. It just keeps this timeline alive. And so this is another thing we hear get thrown around a lot. Marking your lessons in this timeline, downloaded and complete. Well, how do you do that? By taking actions that are contrasting that lesson you just learned, okay? So, or in alignment, I should say, with the lesson you just learned. Meaning, through this contrast, which is the way we communicate and effectively move through this timeline of our human experience. We're always dealing in contrasts and dualities down here. But if you're marking something complete, it's a karmic loop cycle. It is a timeline of fear, panic, grief, sorrow, disempowerment that's collapsing. How do you download that lesson, marking it completed, fully done? I'm done with the lesson. You consistently take actions that are aligned with the best part of that lesson. So taking actions in contrast from that original gift in the garbage, if that makes sense. Bobby, you can tend to your energy, but no one can take anything without your permission, even on an unconscious level. We are always in control. That is true. We are always in charge, right? We can also set the intention to be the thing that is missing. Yes. There was something else that I missed in there. Oh, because Bobby had asked about energy vampires. Yes. Becky's answer is perfect. Absolutely. And I'm going to talk about that in a second. So if you're taking these actions then, that are of a more expanded energetic, you are a way shower. You are showing that there is a better way to be, that there is not necessarily that you have to be my way, but when you are acting in a place of your highest integrity, you will always open up an energetic that has a higher vibration to it. This is expansiveness. If you are taking an action that is aligned with reaction mode, this is always aligned with the lower end of the emotional spectrum, which is low vibration. That is contraction. The best ideas and creative pathways don't open in a place of contraction. They open in a place of expansion. So if you are taking these actions, again, which are manifold, because if we're taking these actions that are of a higher integrity, we are consistently moving into or leaning into the energetic of, I'm marking these lessons, these gifts in the garbage, downloaded and complete. Meaning, thanks, universe, you don't need to keep sending them to me anymore. I get it. It's done. We're done. I'm taking all these actions now, aligning with this energetic now. So the universe says, oh, great, we're done with that. I can stop sending you that now. Okay? If we are doing that, what is the nature of our experience down here? Let's understand this in this bigger scope. Our 3D experience is individual, but it is also the collective. Okay? What we do on an individual level gets projected out, rippled out, mirrored out into the collective. Because the 3D experience is like a hologram. So anything that happens on a collective level gets projected back down on an individual level. And likewise, anything that's happening on an individual level ripples out, has a hologram effect into the collective. So if we're consistently taking these higher actions, aligning with the energy of expansion rather than contraction, meaning responding rather than reacting, listening, taking something to heart instead of feeling like you always have to air your opinion. And sometimes it is warranted. I'm not saying it's not. And that can't be in the highest integrity. But how are you delivering that message? Are you responding or are you reacting? Again, what would the goddess do? Or what would Jesus do, if you want to say that, okay? So that's not just taking actions on your own in terms of responding or reacting. Where are you seeing these kind of acts of very unrighteous, very unspiritual behavior taking place? And where can you step in and maybe call shenanigans on it? Again, coming in with the highest perspective. Becky knows exactly what I'm talking about here because we were involved in an exchange the other day. I'm not going to name names here, but Becky, you know exactly what I'm talking about, where I was seeing this play out. This little cosmic game get played out on this level of, under the guise of having our power and feeling like someone could take it away by having a counter opinion or having a thought or perspective that runs counter to theirs, that somehow their power could be taken away by someone airing that counterpoint or counter perspective. That can never happen. That's part of these timelines that I'm talking about and these patriarchal power structures that have held deliberate, systemic illusions of disempowerment, because as women, we've never been disempowered, by the way. We've always had it. But we've been learned out of using it, so that when we do feel power and we feel these moments of, I'm in my power, I'm coming forth in this unapologetic way, and wait, you're going to tell me I'm wrong? You're going to tell me that this is not right? Or there's a different way of looking at this? We suffer in this illusion then that someone has the ability to take our power away. And this is one of our biggest fears as women, that we'll step into this power, we'll know how it feels, but it's fleeting. That somehow someone has the ability to then take it away. That it's finite. That there's only so much of this power we can experience, and then that's it, that's all you get, there's our ceiling. Or that it's on a timer. I put in this post the other day, your female sovereignty is not on a timer, it is not finite. And when you're taking actions that support that belief, you are moving away from your female empowerment. You are moving away from your sovereignty. Okay? Stand up and speak out when you can. Again, you always have that free will choice to do it from a place of response or reaction. So hopefully you're opting for the high road here. What would the goddess do? Be a way shower in terms of not just what you're doing in your life, but if you understand that we are in a hologram here, every single thing that you do that is aligned with a higher energetic ripples out to the collective. If you are showing up in your highest level of integrity, it's not saying everybody be like me, do what I'm doing in terms of the actual thing that you're doing, the actual thing that you're saying or believing. But if you're coming from a place that has this underlying energetic of expansion, of being able to listen to someone and say, that's interesting, but there is this way too. There is this perspective also. And delivering that in a way that is articulate, fair, responsive, nurturing, compassionate, right? Like Becky said earlier, the thing that's missing or runs in a way that it can balance what that person is saying, or bring that, maybe you can help to bring what that person is saying into balance through you being very articulate in a very loving and nurturing, supportive way. or don't engage at all. But if you see things that feel really out of integrity, and you see or feel even like a bullying happening with so-called spiritual leaders and way showers doing this to another woman or another man, if it looks like bullshit and it smells like bullshit, it is bullshit. And we have this opportunity to the collective and the energy of the hologram as well to stand up and speak out when that feels right to do so. And that is empowerment too, of being able to support your sisters in this way. And I can tell you, when I was supported in this way, and it happened a couple times this week, Becky was one of the ladies that allowed me to be on the receiving end of this support. Hi, Tanya. I can't tell you how amazing it is to feel this level of sisterhood and this level of support when you know one of your sisters has your back. There is nothing, in my opinion, that could have bolstered me more in that moment than feeling that support and love of my tribe around me. That's what sisterhood is all about. Especially if you've been here since the beginning of the call, me coming from a place where I didn't want to work with women for a long time. I worked with mostly men when I first started out doing this healing work because I was afraid of women. I was bullied by them mentally, physically, and emotionally. And I didn't want to work with women because of this. And I did a lot of wound healing around this. I did a lot of goddess work around this. I had to look at where I had disinherited my own femaleness and my own female sovereignty because of this disconnection I felt with other women. I have since healed this, and there's no tears here. I'm coming to you from a place of total empowerment. But I want to let you know that this can still echo. If you have worked on these things before and things are coming up now as we actively collapse these timelines that are holding these old power structures of fear, lack, scarcity, disconnection, disinheritance, a disavowal of our truth, a disavowal of our inherent divinity. There's going to be a lot of lessons that are coming up. Everything is being rewritten. Everything is redefining. And as we redefine things going into 5D, we as women have a really powerful opportunity at our feet right now to be able to redefine sisterhood, to anchor in a new, empowered, expansive meaning for this, to call out bullshit when we see it, but to take our own actions every day that allow us to lead with light. Understand that we're working against here. So I get it. It's tough. It's not an easy thing to do. I'm not saying that any of this is easy, but it is a choice. I've decided to make a choice that in spite of this deliberate, systemic conditioning of disempowerment, whether it's an illusion or not, we still have this feeling that maybe, even though it's an illusion, we still have the feeling of it. But this deliberate systemic conditioning of our disempowerment as females has been ongoing for almost 3,000 years now. So as women, this has been part of our collective beliefs about who we are, about what's possible for us, about our potential, about our divinity, about our ability to rise above, in total balance, by the way, what we have been pushing against, or if we had pushed against us for almost 3,000 years now. This is a really long time. And this is something that is rooting around constantly in our subconscious, and we feel we are trying to constantly reconcile with. And if we keep going back and enacting these behaviors that, believe me, the patriarchal power structures that are still at work here would love to see us keep doing. Keep disempowering each other. Keep diminishing each other. Keep feeling like you're in competition with each other. All of this is an illusion, but it's not if we're taking actions to keep it alive. Does this make sense? So I don't want to come across as being like scolding here or anything like that. I don't want to come across as this, like, be like me, because I'm on this journey too. I'm healing this too. I'm learning this too. But I think this conversation can meet us all exactly where we're at with this stuff. I hope so. That's my hope anyway. We have an opportunity to redefine our sovereignty as we move forth on this 5D timeline of ascension. We have an opportunity to redefine what power means for us, which is about a balance of the masculine and feminine traits within. It is an opportunity for us to redefine sisterhood. And when we redefine things in 5D, what happens is this beautiful crystallization, this distilling of an essence where things get refined. Things become more powerful, more expansive. They lead to more creativity. They lead to more inspiration. They lead to more feeling of connection, more feelings of cohesion of all different aspects of who we are and all different aspects of our lives. I am deliberately choosing the high road here because I know it leads to all these things. And so I know I have plenty of opportunities that are presenting themselves to me just in this week alone, but ongoing, to either respond to these things that I see going on, these imbalances, or to react. That is always our choice. Tanya says, absolutely. In the scarcity, lack, struggle, survival, we are in this alone mentality is also being pushed on everyone constantly. And that's the thing. Like when we have these, what I really see happening, the kind of energetic that I see kind of pulsating beneath the actual physical events taking place is when I see women lashing out against each other or going into competition mode with each other or comparison mode with each other. I had this comparison the other day that because of the things that I was bringing forth, it was a pissing contest. And, my response was like, well, young males have pissing contests. We're adult women. We have intellectual discourse. We exchange ideas in a thoughtful, responsive way where we listen to each other and hear each other out. I'm not asking you to adopt my way of thinking, but I am asking you to respect my perspective and my viewpoint. And if you do that for me, I will reciprocate that. This is the level at which we're being called to participate with each other, to connect with each other, to engage with each other. Anything less than that is aligning with survival mode, meaning this person has the ability to take something away from me. That's full on straight up survival mode, lack mentality, scarcity. That's not aligned with anything else other than that, correct? But when you are aligning with the energy of I'm responding in a thoughtful way, that is support. That is support. Again, you don't have to buy into that person's beliefs. They don't have to buy into yours. But the perspectives can be heard. And if you look at the way this mirrors out largely in society right now, especially here in America, we have so many fracturing ideas. I mean, you don't have to look much further than our political system right now and the polarity, the very, very rigid polarities that are exposed between people who feel one way about our president and they feel another way about our president. It's so polarizing what's happening here. And the reason we can't find any middle ground is because we don't have the ability to engage in intellectual discourse. It's just, I'm right, you're wrong. All the time, right? On both sides of it. No sides are exempt, really, because I'm seeing it on both sides. This ability to engage on a level where we listen and have an intellectual exchange of ideas is a very high energetic of feminine principles and traits. Truly how we inhabit our divine feminine. So it's up to you. It's up to you. But I'm opting for sisterhood. And I'm taking actions even though I'm being faced with really hard lessons where I want to go into ego reactive mode. And that would have been my go-to. That would have been my go-to not that long ago. 5 years ago, 10 years ago, I grew up battling for my ideas. From the time I was a little kid, I was always fighting with my dad about what he wanted me to be was this nice little complacent little girl who's like, yes, Daddy, I have never been that little girl. And so we fought like cats and dogs. Even when I would go to religious instruction, I would argue with the nuns and the priests. I was always being put in the corner because it was like, my ideas, right or wrong, they're my ideas. Rah, you can't tell me otherwise. I have always known battle. But now I realize through that lesson, that gift in the garbage, that the battle doesn't really get me anywhere. It's being able to find that middle ground that can get both of us somewhere. It's not just about me as we move on this ascension timeline. It's about us, right? I'll opt for sisterhood too. Awesome. Awesome. So there it is, ladies. I hope this has met you in a place where you could hear this and maybe it helps you to shed some light on something that's happening in your own life. No one can take your power away from you. There is no competition with your sisters. There is no survival mode when it comes to you and your other sisters. We're all on the same journey of learning and healing and trying to figure all this out together. We all have our own passageways and pathways of doing that. If we're really stepping up in sisterhood, we are honoring that everyone has their own passageway of understanding, their own pathway of understanding. We can listen. We can keep our hearts open, keep our minds open, and practice that sovereignty, which is empowerment through independence of thought, feeling, and action in body, mind, and spirit. And so I'll leave you with that. And I leave you with lots of love in my heart. Bye-bye.